All right, so my name is Noreen Bautista, and I am going to be your host for today. I am the founder and chief igniter of SlashIgnite. So, what is SlashIgnite? Let me go at the start of this. So, the reason why we created this event is because it aligns really with our mission of igniting possibility. So, SlashIgnite is really a social innovation company. So what do we mean when we say social innovation? It's really solving problems. So it's a process of solving problems, developing and deploying effective solutions to social challenges. And we really believe in the power of entrepreneurship, especially. So we've been around since 2012, and I've actually founded it and named it such because I myself am a very slash person. So when I say slash ignite, I'm like entrepreneur slash educator slash blogger. I don't know. I'm an aspiring blogger. So this is really something that was born out of my interdisciplinary inclination. So what we do exactly is we train Filipinos for the future of work. Like we've been running Slash Ignite Academy as something that wants to help Filipinos get through the fourth industrial revolution, which is very different from previous where it's just like factory work and all that. We also believe in the power of entrepreneurship, so we do a lot of venture building. We have our own startups actually that we're building, and but the core of why we do this is because we want to really equip Filipinos with 21st century skills. So that brings us to our event today in partnership with Leave a Nest. So let me tell you about how I met Leave a Nest. So this guy right here, Mr. Yev Dulia, who is our speaker, is my classmate in Visayas. So we were graduates of Philippine Science High School, Western Visayas. And last year, he invited me to what it's called the Hyper Interdisciplinary Conference. So it's a conference by Leave a Nest, this group based in Japan, but they came to Manila. And what was in that conference? They talk about agriculture, technology, disaster response, and how we can integrate all these fields in the context of the Philippines. And that's really what I love because it's a slash of fields: agriculture slash engineering slash disaster risk slash technology, etc. Education as well. And I believe that's really what it takes to be an innovator. I'm also learning to be an innovator as well. And it also starts from being curious. And I personally believe science, tech, engineering, math, STEM fields and skills are necessary for that to happen, because it's really scientific method. You're curious, you want to observe, you want to really solve problems. That's why we love this idea that Levinas is doing. They're based in Japan, and I found out they're an organization composed of scientists, researchers, PhDs, who really wants to bridge that gap between the academe and the researchers, and really create innovations for society. So this is Yav, and with him is his colleague, Satomi Maeda. I hope I pronounced it correctly. So yeah, this is Leave a Nest, and we're just happy in Slash Ignite to be partnering with them to share their programs with you, their organization with you. So that's it.
So, sorry for the long wait, everyone. So, thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedules and listening to us today. So, I'm Yev, and I'm here with my colleague.
Hi, I'm Satomi.
Yeah. So, and we're both from Livanes, and today, as you know, we are going to present to you information about our company as well as other stuff. So the title of today's event is Nurturing the Next Generation of Scientists, Lebanese Company Limited Japan and its Knowledge Platform. So just a short background about myself. I think Noreen already mentioned that I'm also Filipino. So I'm actually from Iloilo City. Me and Noreen were classmates in high school. And I graduated from CHJ in Iloilo City and then Philippine Science High School in Iloilo, and then also got my bachelor's in chemistry in UPV, and after which I took the chemist licensure exam. And after passing the exam, I worked as an instructor at UP Manila for 3 years, and then proceeded to Japan to get my master's in health life sciences and PhD in pharmaceutical sciences. And then after graduating from my PhD, I worked at Intralink KK in Japan as a project coordinator to help European and American companies expand here in Japan. And this year, actually just last month, I joined Livanest. So.
Okay. Hi, my name is Satomi Maeda, and I was born in Japan and grew up in Japan half, and then the other half in the United States. So I stayed in Japan up until high school graduation, and I moved to United States to study psychology. My expertise is in human factor psychology. I got a PhD in this area in United States. And I came back to Japan to look for a job and joined the Livanest about 10 years ago from now. And in Livanest, I do a lot of work in education program development and also like a human resource training program development. So I will share a lot about Livanest company and what we do in Japan later.
Okay, thank you very much, Satomi. So this is the flow of our presentation today. So first, of course, I'd like to explain to you why, looking back on my personal experiences, how I got here, and then I will also be presenting data about how Filipinos view science and science education in general, and then Maeda-san, Satomi will talk about Livanest and the way we think, what Livanest has been doing, and what's coming up in the Philippines. So as I mentioned, I'll be talking about my personal experiences, and I'm sure that almost everyone, or really everyone can relate to the things I'm going to talk about. So when I was a high school student, so in Philippine Science, as a science high school, we are required to do a research thesis in a team of 3. And our topic was the biodegradability of 3 plastics using a specific bacteria at various temperatures. And during that time, we needed to check 3 temperatures at the same time, but we only had 1 incubator. So unfortunately, we had to be resourceful, and I actually asked one of my uncles to make like these makeshift incubators, and 3 of them. And each makeshift incubator cost around 3,000 pesos each. And then you have 3, so we spent 9,000 when we were in high school. So during that time, just for a comparison, the monthly allowance for PSI students was 500 to 2,500 pesos. Now, after graduating, as I mentioned, I studied at UPV Niagao. And of course, as a chemistry student, we also had a bachelor's thesis. And my topic was about the effect of humic acid ingestion on iron blood serum levels in rabbits. So with that, I needed to use rabbits. I needed to have biochemical tests to test the blood serum levels. But unfortunately, we did not have that much equipment. We didn't even have an animal house. And of course, because we had no research funding, I had to spend personally 20,000 pesos. And in comparison, I was a DST scholar at that time. And the allowance we had was only around 1,500 to 4,000 a month. Now, I also taught at UP Manila for 3 years. So the thing I would like to mention here is that for most of the faculty members, or the recommended unit load is 12 units. But on average, we had 18 to 21 units per semester. So you could see that we were very overloaded. Plus, for normal lectures, the normal limit would be 40 students, but usually, because of the lack of teachers, the classes would usually be around 50 students or 60. But my experience as a university lecturer was that, but I'm sure that for our educators for grade school, junior high school, and senior high school, especially for the government schools, I'm sure that you have it worse. Now, after that, I came to Japan to study for my MS and PhD. So my graduate school research was about the pharmacological effect of vitamin D on the inflammatory and anti-inflammatory polarization of microglial cells. So I used cell lines, I used culture media, I used a lot of reagents for checking RNA for protein levels. And in most of my experiments, I had to use these antibodies to check the protein levels. And like one small vial of 100 microliters cost already around 50,000 pesos. And I used a lot of that in my 5 years. And I also used like $1 million equipment, but my professor said that our lab had no money. So that's when I realized how different our standards are in the Philippines and in Japan. That was really frustrating. And after getting my PhD, I worked as a project coordinator at Interlink, as I mentioned. So the company basically helps European and American companies expand into Japan. And as you can see in the highlight, that our company focuses on fields such as automotive, electronics, pharmaceuticals, and telecom. So as a life science and pharmaceutical graduate, I was in charge of helping biotech and medical device companies expand into Japan. But then, in the time that I worked there, why only like American or European companies? Why aren't Philippine companies capable of expanding into other countries? So again, that made me feel very frustrated. And this is just like more of my personal analysis, also analysis from my colleagues. So we have like, it's a pyramid, but the diagram is not a pyramid, sorry about that. But so at the bottom, you have science education. And then at the right, you have problems of lack of appreciation for and incentives for education. And of course, as I mentioned, there's a high student to teacher ratio. And in effect, the kids are not, plus the lack of proper science communication and education. So in effect, the students don't want to be science majors at that point. And then when you get to the level of science research, as I mentioned, no research funding, no equipment, and even less specialists for making these quality researches. So a lot of people in the sciences actually go abroad, me included, and I know a few of my colleagues who are also watching now, resorted to go to other countries to study. Next, if you go higher up, if you do become a scientist with an MS or PhD, or at least with a science background, there's also not many job opportunities in the Philippines. So from what I know, MS and PhD holders that I know, they only can work in academia. Other than that, no other opportunities. So again, even if you get an MS or PhD, you would want to work abroad, right? Because of course we need to make a living. And for people who studied abroad, they would stay there. That's like me, actually. And again, when you go to the upper level of industry, so as you notice, there are no big science and technology companies. Like here in Japan, you have big pharma companies, Otsuka, Takeda, and all the other stuff. You have big automotive companies, Honda, Toyota, etc. But in Philippines, we don't have that, unfortunately. And the Philippine economy is dominated by foreign companies. So the problem is we don't have our own system for that. And in the end, since, of course, for example, we do have Filipino scientists, but for example, they're abroad, I've heard of a lot of cases where their works and inventions are being used or were being used for these foreign institutions. Like, for example, there's erythromycin, which was discovered in my hometown, Iloilo City, actually. And then it's a drug that was originally marketed by Eli Lilly, which is a foreign company. So that's just one example in this level. So for all these levels, you could see that all these levels are also interrelated to the lack, as you can see in the arrow on the left. This is all brought about by lack of interest in science and pursuit of a career in science. as well as the lack of science comprehension of the population in general. Now, I think you could understand how when I was in the Philippines, I already felt these problems, but ever since I came to Japan, I noticed how everything was so different that it became clear to me that these should be really, really, really taken care of. Now, when I was in Kumamoto University in my later years in graduate school, I decided to make a small investigatory project on how Filipinos actually feel about science and science education. So I did a mini study entitled Perceptions of Science, Science Education, and Science Communication in the Philippines. And I conducted this survey from November to December 2017, so that's around 3 years ago. All the respondents were Filipinos who were either inside the Philippines or outside, but at least the rule was that they should have experienced Filipino education. And for this survey, I had a total of 675 respondents. So there were actually 20 questions, but because I don't think I would be able to explain all of them in one go, so I just chose a few questions. First one was that, do you or did you like science as a school subject? So it was very interesting actually to see that a lot or majority of the Filipinos liked it very much. So you could see that there's 58% answered very much, 11% neutral, 30% a little, and only 0.4% did not like it as a subject. So we could say that, yeah, Filipinos generally like science as a school subject. Now, for those who answered that they did not like science in question 1, I asked them a follow-up question, why they don't like science. So around 73% answered that they say it's difficult. And around 27% said they're not interested. So most of the people who do not like science in the Philippines think it's difficult. Now, on the other hand, for those who answered that they like science in question 1, I also added an additional a follow-up question for that, which is, even though you do not hate it, do you find it difficult? And yes, even if Filipinos like science, they still think it's difficult. So both ways, in question 2, question 3, we could say that Filipinos as a total think science is difficult whether they like it or not. Now, skipping to question number 5, I asked, do you think science is important in everyday life? And again, interestingly, majority answered that it is important. So 77.5% said very important, 20% said it's important. So you could say, yeah, Filipinos think that science is important in everyday life. Next, number 6, individuals can survive without learning science. So it's basically the opposite of 5. So for this one, it's kind of mixed. 37% said they disagree, 18% agreed, 18% strongly disagreed, 20% neutral, and 4% answered strongly agree. So it was kind of mixed at this point, that science may be or may not be important to everyday living. And then skipping to number 7, we should learn science even if you will not be pursuing a science-related degree or career. So like, for example, if you are planning to become a lawyer, a businessman, or whatnot, is science still needed as a subject? So at this point, also in general, 49% agreed, 40% strongly agreed. So that's majority. So we could say that even if, that Filipinos generally think that science should be studied in school, whether or not you will be pursuing a science-related career or not. And next, so skipping to number 9, I asked the respondents to rank 4 subjects according to perceived usefulness. So those are earth science, biology, chemistry, and physics. So 1 means it's the least useful for them, 2, 3, and then 4 is the most useful in their opinion. So actually, a lot of respondents answered that's the same for all, but for each subject, you could see that only one level of perceived usefulness stands stands out. So for example, for earth science, it's actually the subject that a lot of the respondents thought was not useful. And then the most useful for them, for most of the respondents, was biology, which, as you can see here, has most answers for 4. So if you think about it, biology is the subject among these 4 that is easily visible and the subject that you can easily relate to, right? But for earth science, it's around us, but most people think that it's not really going to affect them. So with this data, you could say that, many Filipinos think that scientific fields that are visible or relatable are the ones that are more useful. So number 10, do you think science can be enjoyable or can be made approachable? So again, very unanimous answer. Strongly agree, 62.5%, agree 28.3%. So most of the respondents agree that science can still be improved. The way science is taught or communicated or understood can still be improved. So just a summary. So Filipinos have a relatively positive view of science, which was kind of surprising for me. So they think it's necessary enough to be studied in school, but they think it's difficult. But also they think that the scientific fields that are very useful or practical are the ones that they can relate to or can be seen. And the perception and teaching and communication of science can be improved. So this is the data that I had with my mini study. But not only that, so I'm also presenting to you additional data from other sources. So this is, I think a lot of you are familiar with this. So this, I think, also went out in multiple media outlets on news, that in 2018, so I think every year the OECD conducts the Program for International Student Assessment, and they give out these assessment tests. And in 2018, so the graph here on the left shows ASEAN countries only. So as you can see, the OECD average for scientific literacy was 489, and you have Singapore higher than that with 551. But unfortunately, for the Philippines, we have 357 points, which is, sad. And for Japan, as a comparison, since I'm here, so Japan had 525 points, which was ranked 5. But Philippines, again, with 357 points, ranked 77 out of 78 countries. That's second lowest, everyone. So that's not something to be really happy about. And also, I got data from Nature Index. So I think a lot of people are familiar with Nature, the scientific publication journal. So they also have this Nature Index website where they track the number of publications per country and other data. So this count thing is just the number of publications that, for example, if an author in Japan publishes a research paper in a high level or a high impact factor journal, that's one count. So for Japan, there were 5,059 counts. But for the Philippines, in the period for last year, there were only 46 research papers. So that's almost 110 times gap. And then also, this is another news article that I got online. So just also confirms how the Philippines needs more scientists. And you can see here that on the first paragraph that the Philippines only has 189 scientists per million, but the ideal ratio is 380. So we only have half of around the ideal ratio of scientists needed in the Philippines. So going back, the data that I showed is just proof that this is actually very true. And I'm sure as educators, as Filipinos in the Philippines, that you know very well that this is true. Now, I realized, as I mentioned earlier, I realized how badly the situation needs to be fixed in the Philippines. And I personally wanted to do something about it. And coincidentally, I found out about the Lebanese. So just going back a bit, so most of the problems that the Philippines is experiencing now and has been experiencing, which is similar to this slide, is like, for example, loss of interest towards science in children, lack of scientists, employment problems for science majors, no research support, no S&T companies, no lack of appreciation for entrepreneurship, high to student teacher ratio. It's actually most of the big three ones, that big circles that you see there, were the problems that Japan was actually experiencing 18 years ago. And that 18 years ago was when LeaveNS was established. Now, I will leave the explanation of LeaveNS to Maeda-san from now. So,
Hi. Hello. Hi. So I will take over here now for about 10 minutes or so to tell you about our company, LeaveNS. So our company is actually a leading science bridge communication company that we call, with knowledge-based platform. Now this knowledge-based platform, I will explain maybe later in my slides. But our vision is very, very big, advancing science and technology for global happiness. Now, when I joined my company and when I saw the vision, advancing science and technology for global happiness, I was very happy about it because it's very, very big, but then I had no idea how our company will do that. So in my presentation, I hope that you see a little of what, how we are trying to kind of achieve this vision. Okay. Right. So this is our company, LeaveNS now. Our company is very unique in that our members, all of them has research background. Now I'm a psychologist and then he's a chemist.
Chemist and pharmaceutical.
Okay. Yeah. So half of the staff member have master's degree, the other half have PhD. So we really comprise of staff member with research experience. And then also our company extends to not only just in Japan, but to a world. So we have 4 overseas branch outside of Japan also. Right. So just Yev discussed about 3 issues that we are faced 18 years ago. Now, so this slides have many things in here, but our company was founded by 15 graduate students. At the time, they were still in the university program, and they gathered and they decided to start a company. So the picture on the bottom side, you see, sorry, they are making silly faces because they're just very young, young graduate student. Yeah. But they gathered around and they tried to start a company to solve those 3 issues: no interest in science, PhD students without jobs, and then also lack of entrepreneurs. Now, so these 3 issues are very, very big issue, and there are only 15 of them, right? So it seems that there are things that is very limited that they can do. But when they started the company, they tried to think about what is causing those 3 issues in Japan. And our founders, what they thought the root of the issue, those 3 issues, was this. Then here you see on the left side, researchers, their knowledge and expertise, and then also society, it says, meaning like the people in public and their recognition. So there is this big gap between what the people with expertise and specialized knowledge know and what the rest of the people know. So we believe that this gap, to fill this gap by some services or some activities, narrowing this gap will solve those 3 issues. So this is what they saw, the founders saw, that the core of the issue. So how they narrow the gap? This slide explains a model of how they try to solve it. So in here, in the middle, it says science workshop by youth researchers. So what they decided to do as a first project is they created science workshop delivered by youth researchers who are still in the graduate school program, meaning our founders. So what they did is they created science workshop And through the science workshop, they try to teach what is actually being done in the university level. Because oftentimes the things in the science textbook is something that it's already been proved like 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Not that, but what's actually being done in the forefront of science discovery field. They try to deliver that content to students by themselves. So this is what they did as a first service. So this science workshop done by youth researchers, this has been and still has been one of our major services we do every year. So every year I go to school and teach, take a part of the science workshop. All the Lebanese staff members do at least one program a year. We go to school and then try to do this science workshop. Now, by just looking at this, it looks like, well, many other places are doing it, or maybe it may look like it's kind of like a volunteer work. But what we are doing this, I believe that the unique part of this is that we are making this as a business. So we are providing this as a business. Now, I'm kind of showing the same picture of what we used before. So I said the youth researcher goes to school and teach students. But you see this both sides, right? Now, what we are doing, or what we realize, is that youth researchers themselves, by teaching students the frontier knowledge of science, of course, students will gain the specialized knowledge. But not only that, on the right side, you see training of young professionals. So the researchers themselves, by explaining a difficult terms, difficult concept in a science area, they themselves can train their communication skills and also project development skills, leadership, and management. So we realized that asking youth researchers to do this initiative, we can also train them. So using this kind of system, we are actually making this science workshop currently together with universities or together with companies to provide as a service. Now, our company started with education, which is the top pillar, but now currently our company have main pillars of services: education, human resource, research and development, and also frontier development equal business development services. Now, I'm not going to explain all of this today, but just to touch on education services, since most of our audience, I believe, is from schools. So in education services, we do, yes, on-demand science workshop. We do this together with universities, maybe bringing university students to schools as a part of their training program. Or we work with a lot of companies with technology and science, and we work with them. We bring their employees to schools to teach their technologies to kids, and then we train themselves communication and program development skills. We also do this event called Science Castle. Science Castle is an international research conference for high school and middle school students. And we started this in Japan, but not only in Japan, now we have Science Castle in Malaysia and also in Singapore. And here you see national flags here, many national flags here. Last year's Science Castle Singapore, there are many students also from outside of Singapore, from all over the Asia also. Okay. So thus far, I explained about our service lineup, kind of our company description, right? And when I go back, in the very beginning, I told you that our company consists of researchers. So we actually didn't have any sort of business experience before. So I did a lot of lab work. He did a lot of lab work, but we didn't know how to earn money. We didn't know anything about business. But now, we are Japan's leading science communication company. But how we did this, I wanted to share a little bit about our thought process in the last couple slides. Okay. So this probably a lot of people know, a lot of your teachers teach students this also, I think. But what it means to work is changing. So in the past, probably a lot of companies, you enter there and then your boss will tell you what to do, and you just kind of do the work that you were given with accuracy and with efficiency. So this is how it has been before. But now, from now on, things are becoming very, very complex. There's AI who will kind of replace simple work anyway. So we believe that work in 21st century is not just to work for something you are given, but you need to be able to start something new, to be able to challenge something new. So the skill set and mind that students who are going through school now that they have to have is very, very different now. And so how we can initiate or how we can challenge new things, this QPMI cycle, this is kind of like a framework that we use in our company. This cycle represents how we can kind of create innovation. It starts with quality question, it says. This maybe stands out for social issues that you want to solve. So, I want to do something about, for instance, flood issues in the Philippines. So this may be one quality question. And so there will be someone who think that, I really want to solve this question. And this person has to kind of try to solve this question with passion. So that's the P part. So it's not just like as a job or as a responsibility, but it has to have a passion there. And then I believe that this M part, member and mission, this is very, very important when we try to create business, because what you can do as one or what you can do by yourself is very, very limited. You always need team to bring forward innovation or bring forward something big. So we try to create a member, we try to gather members for whatever the quality question that we want to solve, and we try with a team. And eventually, invention or innovation will occur. So that's what we believe that we need for 21st century. Okay. So that QPMI cycle is under our business creation philosophy. So here you see so many bubbles here. And all beneath this red circles, they're a picture of our Lebanese staff. So these represents all of our passion. Now, I said that with member M part, QPMI M part, so each of us will have some question that we want to solve, and what we do is we gather members. And our member is, of course, within our company and then also outside of our company. So all the project, I mentioned the 4 pillars in Lebanese, all 4 projects has a set of companies, a partnership companies who are working with us to actually make those to make those projects possible. So with us saying out that this is the issue that we want to solve, and we get members within and then outside of our company, and that creates more than 200 projects a year. So this is how we create business in Lebanese. Now, so our knowledge platform, what it is really the collection of our partners with like-minded passion. So together with us and then all the partners, we are a leading science communication company, bring out different innovation and business using science and technology. Okay, so this is what we have been doing in Japan. And then from here on, for another 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. We will kind of go through, maybe a little quick, but to go through what's coming in the Philippines and what we have been done in the Philippines.
Yeah, so actually, again, apologies because we started late. If you notice, we're kind of close to each other. One reason was that we were supposed to be practicing social distancing earlier, but because of the technical problems,
okay,
it's
right,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so sorry for that delay, but
Okay.
we're supposed to end at 3, I think, but yeah, apologies for that. If is everyone okay with proceeding? So just let us know. And if you have any questions, just put it in the chat so that we could answer it later. So again, sorry. Meda-san was talking about how we have been active in Japan and around the world, but we have also been quite active in the Philippines. So, for example, we have our Tech Planter event, which started from 2017 in the Philippines. So it has been on the run for ever since here in Japan, but in the Philippines, it started on 2017. And it's an acceleration and pitch competition focusing on deep tech, which we as our own companies, in our own companies' words, we call it real tech. So we have this program to provide startups with mentoring, fundraising, and market expansion opportunities in Asia, and especially in Japan. So we have been conducting this every year in the Philippines. And actually, just this 3 weeks ago, on June 2, we had this Tech Planter Global Conference, which was a Tech Planter where all the alumni, where all the winners of the previous Tech Planters around Southeast Asia joined. And we held it online for the first time. So out of all, I'm not sure how many participants there were, but out of the 6 countries, actually the grand winner was from us. So as you can see in the bottom, there's the company is called Fruitect, and I'm sure you are very interested in how it's named. So it's actually, the presenter was Dr. Hidalisa Hernandez from UPLB, and it's Fruitect based on the word itself. It's a spray coating to protect fruits. That's why it's called Fruitect. Yeah. So this Tech Planter is one of the projects under our Frontier or Business Development division. And also we started the Hyper Interdisciplinary Conference from 2019. And this was the event actually that me and Noreen attended. So in this picture on the left, you can see both of us on the right side. And so the point behind Hyper Interdisciplinary Conference, it's interdisciplinary, but it's also hyper. So you can see that various fields will be joining in, as well as different types of people will be involved in that. So in the description, you can see that we did this to fill the gap in knowledge. And we feel that it's important for people from different walks of life, like scientists, engineers, business persons, medical doctors, farmers, educators, and even young students should be joining in this one, so that we could have this, we could accelerate the growth of knowledge. So last 2019, it was on December, our theme was Island Issues and Its Potential, and our keynote speaker was Ma'am Aisa Miheno from Salt Corporation. So I think you know her because she was also on the news. It was this startup company which uses water and salt and uses natural lighting as an alternative light source. And then we also had, during this time, we forged a partnership with Wella Online Corporation. So Wella Online is an online educational platform. So they have these RFIDs. So for example, you have the app, and then For example, one of the main purposes of this online platform by Wella is that parents could monitor their kids. So like you see on the second picture in the middle, so there's like an RFID reader, I think, where you just tap it there and you could actually see when your kid entered the school and when your kid went outside the school, and it automatically shows on the app. So that's one of its functions. And there are also various other functions like online payment schemes, online study platforms. So they also are developing that now. That's why we think Liveness thought that it's a very good company, and Liveness decided to invest in Wella Online last December. Now we also have Tech Planter, HIC, Hyper Interdisciplinary Conference, and Science Castle this year. And unfortunately for Tech Planter, I don't think our viewers, our educators are interested in this unless there are entrepreneurs there in the audience. But the application deadline just closed last Friday, but the actual pitching for the finalists is on August 8th. Yeah, so if you want to watch, that's also a good option. And then we also have the Hyper Interdisciplinary Conference on December 2020. We have not finalized yet the details, but of course, if you're interested, we would let you know. And Science Castle, as Maida-san mentioned, it's held in Singapore because it's an overall Science Castle for Asia. And the deadline is on 28th. So if you remember, it's the research conference for high schools and middle and senior high school students. And the deadline is on 28th, and the results is on September 11th, and the actual conference is on November 6th to 7th, 2020. And aside from that, we have also been thinking of ways to help ASEAN in the Philippines. So we have thought of a few projects, like for example, this ASEAN Castle Grant. So in this model, in this project, we'll be asking partnerships from Japanese companies, and we'll be using this sponsorship from them to give research grants to junior high school and senior high school students in around the ASEAN, and we will also be doing mentoring for them for their researches. And the recipient or the team or the students who will be getting our grant will be able to present in Science Castle. Also, we're also planning to do an international research collaboration project from next month until January of 2021. So in this project, schools from Japan, SG Malaysia, and the Philippines, or practically the whole of Asia, will be working on a common research topic. And the project theme is about soil science, so it could be anything under that. So in this case, the kids won't have to go around the countries because we will be doing 3 times online sessions in this case. And lastly, we will also be doing an online science workshop. So as Maida-san mentioned, we have been doing face-to-face online science face-to-face science workshops for students here in Japan. But of course, as you know, we have COVID this year, and we have actually been successful in doing an online science workshop here in Japan. So we were thinking of also doing it abroad. Of course, I'm Filipino, so I wanted to do it in the Philippines. So this time, our program title is "Jibun no karada wa kagaku no katama da yo." So which means that, do you know that your body is a lump of science? So it's learning about the mystery of DNA, and of course, just to give it a Japanese taste, you'll also be teaching the kids Japanese words at the same time that's related. So just to give it a little flavor. And the target participants will be grade school students from 4th grade to 6th grade, junior high students, JHS students from years 1 to 2. And we're thinking of having the workshops up to 20 students per session. And then parents should also be participating, so like 2 per house. And then that's like a total of 40 participants. Plus, the teachers would also be able to participate in the session. So our educators right now, you would be able to see how we conduct our workshops. So going back to the science pyramid problem that I explained earlier, you can see that in this pyramid, though it's not a pyramid, sorry about that, at the base, we have science education. And of course, in order to solve these other problems at the top, science research, human resources, industry, we at Leavenworth think that science education is very, very vital and important for this. So we think, me personally, and Leavenworth thinks that as science education is the foundation, you, our educators, are the pillars that hold this up. And just to take a message, in order to improve our Philippine side, being a Filipino, I want to improve the Philippines. We need to recognize that science technology is a very good tool for accelerating it, and we have to accelerate S&T for that. But to do that, we also need to have more scientists. So at Leavenworth, we believe that you, our educators, are the key to producing our future scientists. So we'd be really happy if you could work with us together to shape the future of the Philippines. Thank you very much. And we also have a survey if you have time later on. I think Noreen will also be sending the link for the survey after. So thank you very much.
Yeah, we have one question from user mentoring. So I just read it out. So for Sir Yev, I'm curious as to the numbers mentioned earlier, the 189 instead of the real 390 Filipino science experts, experts, teachers. If that accounted for all Filipino science experts all over the world, or just those who are residing in the Philippines?
Okay. So I wasn't able to confirm that, but yeah, I think I'll take a look at it again if it's like within the Philippines, because it's was from a news article. But yeah, I'll try to confirm if it's within the Philippines or total around the world. But my impression is that it's only in the Philippines. But yeah, I'll confirm that. Thank you for the question.
All right. So thank you, everyone. I know we're a little bit over time, but I sent the link to the survey in the chat. So please make sure to answer it. This will be the basis of your certificates as well. So we've been seeing some people drop out. I think it's because of internet connection, but don't worry, we'll email the survey link as well. And as mentioned, this is recorded. So if you have missed the previous the earlier period, or you have colleagues who have missed it, don't worry, we will send you the recording. I think we can have a few more questions just so we can maximize this time with our Japanese friends. Anyone wants to ask some questions?
Yeah, please go ahead.
All right, we have from user It's Me JM. What could be suggested to improve competencies of science educators for us to meet the needs of our students?
Okay, that's a very tough question, I think. For one, there are many ways to do it.
Well, so I don't think what I'm going to tell now is the only answer.
Yeah.
But so the situation is the same in Japan also. A lot of science teachers, they may not have, say, PhD. It's not like all the science teachers have doctorate or anything. But so what they do is they kind of pair up with graduate students or like young researchers in the university. So when they have to teach at some level of with some level of expertise knowledge, we started kind of pooling those youth researchers who are interested in kind of teaching kids. So we have this pool, and a lot of school kind of get access to the pool to recruit research mentors from universities. So it's not the teacher has to know everything or teacher has to teach everything, but the teacher can be sort of like a coordinator to bridge university expertise to bring them together to your students. So that may be one way to do it.
So like we mentioned that we're science bridge communicators, but so like we're bridging and bridging also. So
two institutions.
So the teachers could also, educators could also be that bridge.
I also want to add, I think it, just to boil down with the basics, I think, kids who like science start because they're curious about it. Like I personally was interested in science because of curiosity. And actually, that's one of the possible next sessions that we have in SlashIgnite about how to engage curiosity. I think it starts with that, like to engage the mind of the child, to really be interested. At the basic of it, they have to just be really curious about scientific things.
Yeah, that's very good.
Any more questions? Okay, there's one from user Syra Manyo. Do you have an online platform where young learners may check upon so they may learn more about science research?
Well, we have not so much a lot of online thing. We still make a magazine. We issue science magazine 4 times a year. So we have our kind of line of media, but and those are actually PDF that can be downloaded. However, those are in Japanese. So that's, I guess, sort of limited to Japanese language. We have some series of YouTube video also, but those are also in Japanese. Sorry, yeah. So so that's why we are trying to kind of increase the number of materials can be accessible to all over the world in English. So that's why we joined our company.
And also, in addition, as you noticed, we're not exactly making products. We're doing services. So it's more like we're making these companies that actually have those platforms. So if you remember, we had a partnership with Wella Online Corporation. So they actually have that, and we're supporting them. So that's our job, but we're not exactly making the products. So if you're interested on those online platform things, I would suggest you could, talk to Wella Online Corporation. And yeah, that's one thing that you could do.
Yeah, so Bella is a startup in Cagayan de Oro City. So anyone from CDO there, we can be in touch with them for future sessions. So last question na lang po.
Yeah, sorry, yes? Maeda-san needs to go already, so it's yeah, she needs to go. So it's just gonna be me. Just one more question. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we can just have one more question from user Princess Fuentes. In the shift of teaching delivery and learning mode today, how can we ensure that students are engaged in scientific inquiry?
Teaching delivery. Yeah, so that's a very good question, and that's also a question that's being asked here in Japan. So to be honest, we have a forum that tackles exactly that question next week here in Japan, but it's in Japanese, unfortunately. But yeah, I cannot say that there's also one answer to that, because as you know, to be honest, even though Japan is a very highly developed country, the education system here is that most of the educators here are still paper-based. So when COVID came, they were not as prepared as the other OECD countries, to be honest. So yeah. I'm not.
I see.
I can't say that I can answer that question because.
Okay, last lang talaga from user Ronilo Antonio. I think it's related to what you said. Based on observation, can you tell us about the house of teaching science in Japan? How different is it from the Philippines?
House of teaching. Okay. Sadly, Maeda-san already left, so I'm not exactly in a position to say that, because I did study in Japan, but it was graduate school. And in graduate school, you are more independent, of course, compared to like grade school, high school, and university level. So yeah, I think for one, the educational system is that from a young age, they usually teach more on ethics, and discipline. That's why they have all the, I mean, Japanese people are known for being very disciplined and stuff like that. So I noticed that that is the base level of what they're studying from the start. But yeah, I cannot really say how they are teaching science differently here.
All right. So thank you, everyone. I think that wraps it up. Thank you so much for bearing with our tech
Sorry for the
difficulties.
delay.
But again, this is recorded. This is a recorded session. So the survey link is in the chat, but I'll also send an email after this so you can get the link. If we have certificates will be also sent after you've sent the emails. Sorry, the survey. So thank you again, everyone.
Yes, thank
I
you so
see
much.
one more, but I think I'll just leave it to Yev to answer. We can email you this questions answers after.
Yes.
Once again, my name is Celine from SlashIgnite. We will be in touch if we have future events like these. Hopefully, we can really develop more scientists with your help as educators. So, maraming salamat po. Arigato gozaimasu.